We'll start without technology. Or will we have our ability to see the screen? Oh yeah, the screens are working. Okay. Welcome to the August 9th meeting of the Rules and Open Government Committee. Let's take roll.
Davis.
Here.
Jimenez.
Present.
Kame.
Here.
Foley.
Here.
Cohen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right. Let's start with the agenda for the meeting of Tuesday, August 15th. There's a 9:30 closed session, 1:30 open session, no evening session. Consent starts on page 2. Oops, what just happened to the screen? Oh.
Yeah, now what? Okay.
Is there? Okay, well, Zoom's working, but I think the screen is, it's out there too.
Yeah, it's
All right.
scrolling up there, and yeah, the people on Zoom can see it,
it's
and the
not
people in the
on our-
audience
okay.
can see it, but maybe
All right.
you guys can't.
Page 8, 9, 10, for consent. Strategic support, we have a fire station relocation for fire station number 8, and a Sauceri seismic retrofit program application. And then section 6, we have a Title 28 ordinance update, and that is all. So let's go to public comment.
We have an in-person speaker, Christina Ramos. Please come down to the podium.
Good afternoon, Rules Committee. It's a pleasure to be back in front of you again, as always, and seeing all your lovely faces. I'm Christina Ramos, Senior Government Affairs for PG&E, and we just would like the public record. I sent a letter to everyone on the Rules Committee, but for the public record, I'm hoping that the Council will consider deferring item 6.1 on the August 15th agenda. Our concern around the item stems from the fact that the city hasn't conducted the appropriate level of analysis on the feasibility of this. And although I don't have an exhaustive list, the staff memorandum also assumes that a governance-run utility would be able to provide lower rates to its customers without impacting the level of service while maintaining the same level of support for the city's general fund. And I'd like to point out that creating a utility could result in legal obstacles if a new entity wanted to make payments in lieu of taxes to make government entities whole, and that this would essentially amount to new taxes paid by San Jose residents. As we know, our residents have predominantly been more acquired to focusing on homelessness, public safety, and the like. And all we're asking for here is to have a public dialogue with all of the stakeholders before this moves forward. And at PG&E, there are a lot of assertions that we can be a partner with the city on in this instance, and we'd like to have the opportunity to have that conversation. Thank you.
Blair Beekman, please come down to the podium.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Just to comment on the previous, a bit on the previous public comment. Thank you for it. A reminder, community energy is really important goals to be working on, and for the previous public commenter to want a public forum for what she wants to speak to, thank you for that. It's important to have that dialogue. It's important to be reminded of what the future of community energy can be working towards, and the goals it can accomplish as a community process, as a participatory process. I think it's really a hopeful thing, and always in looking for ways to invite the public to lower fees, less corporate dominance, and more local energy making ideas and practices. Those are the sort of things we should be looking for, and good luck in those efforts. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right, thank you. I can't see hands, so I'll just recognize, or maybe I don't see them on the screen, but I can see your light flashing, so I'll start with Councilmember Foley.
New technology we're all trying to get used to. Thank you for the public comments, and I just want to share a couple of thoughts. While I think that there's a potential for a great low-cost municipal electrical utility through San Jose Power, I do have significant concerns about continuing to move forward. I firmly believe that as a city we should stick to our core competencies, but I think we need to investigate this further and see where this actually takes us. So I do have a couple of questions, and I see Lori's in the audience. So Lori, can you come down? I appreciate it. And I've been public on my concerns about this in the past, so none of this is new, but I am also thoughtful about it and know that we need a more reliable source of electricity going forward, especially as we're pushing development and we're pushing all electrification too. So I understand the need and desire for that. But can you tell me what type of analysis was conducted to ensure that San Jose Power, establishing San Jose Power would be feasible?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. So Lori Mitchell, Director of Community Energy. So we have been working on this for a number of years. As you know, we did a study session last year. A lot of financial modeling and analysis went into that study session about a year ago to serve projects in the Diridon area. We're continuing that analysis, and that analysis concluded savings in the range of 15 to 25%. And importantly, going forward with the item on next Tuesday will allow us to continue that analysis by submitting this interconnection application that will allow us to get additional costs on what that would cost to connect, so that we can come back to council with even more information on those costs before proceeding with, offering that service.
So the vote on Tuesday isn't 100% vote to go forward, it's to continue the investigation, and you'll come back to us with more information when, of more details that will be of a substantive nature for us. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. It's really important to understand that this is just the first step on a longer road, probably about a timeline of over 5 years. So these new transmission lines will be constructed in the 2026 to 2028 timeline, and that is the
Estas líneas de
earliest.
transmisión se instalarían en 2025-2026.
The interpreter is on the wrong channel.
So that is the earliest that we would be able to serve load. So a lot of additional analysis to come.
Great, thank you. And what kind of outreach have you done so far to stakeholders, the community, interested parties?
We haven't yet because we're at the very early stages of this. Mostly we've been working with Ellis Power, who is the developer that the CAISO has selected to construct the transmission lines. And, that's really why we're phasing this the way it is. They're in the design phase right now, and so we have an opportunity to submit an application and be designed in. And so that's why we're recommending the steps today that we are, but there's a lot to come over the next 5 years before we would actually offer that service.
Okay, great. I really appreciate that. And Chair Cohen, is the motion in order?
Always.
Okay, then I would move approval of the 8:15 agenda, and I am not pulling 6.1 because I believe the full council should have this discussion on Tuesday.
Does that include the ad sheet?
Oh,
With the,
I forgot to highlight the ad sheet.
I'm sorry, what's the ad
I didn't
sheet?
see the ad sheet either. Oh, here's the ad sheet.
Sure,
With the ad sheet.
of course.
All right, we've had a motion and no, I know. We had a motion and a second. Councilmember Jimenez is next. His light's flashing. That's the nice feature here. I can see the little flashing green light.
Am I on? Okay. So I have similar concerns, but actually, in my mind, the forum today is really about whether to agendize this for a full conversation, which I think we should have. But I'm also curious if Lori, or actually Lee, if you can even touch on whether a deferment of about a week or so would be okay, and what type of conversations you think can be had within that week to sort of bring into the fold some of the stakeholders, such as different bargaining units or even PG&E. Obviously, we have a representative here. And just to get your thoughts, and if you want to wrap into that answer, just the application and the timing of it, if you can maybe share a little bit about that and why it's important to go now rather than wait a little bit longer.
Sure, yeah, thank you very much for the question. So we would recommend proceeding with the interconnection application, as I said, because Ellis Power right now is designing. And so if we want the option to connect to these lines, this is the time when it would be most cost effective because we can be designed in. If we wait, potentially they get further along in that design and it becomes higher cost. Also, if we wait, we run the risk of other developers wanting to connect to these lines and that capacity being taken up. And so while we think it's very important to engage with stakeholders, there's plenty of time to do that. We absolutely plan to do that over the next several years as we continue to analyze this, and would be very open to that, but we do recommend proceeding with submitting this interconnection application just to preserve this option in the future.
This button again. So if it was, say we kick this, I'm not suggesting we do this, but we kick this a month, is that truly going to impact the decision to get designed into what they're doing and some of the work that they're doing?
Potentially.
Okay.
We've been working on this for several months, and obviously the agendas were very full in June, and so we moved it to August. And I can't say for certain, but potentially there could be higher cost.
And I assume just based, I read the memo obviously for the 15th, but I think time and again what I see in some of the language is this is not committing us, right, to actually going down this route.
Absolutely not committing us, no.
But as I expressed before, I fear that we get too far down the road, then we're going to say, we should just keep going because we're almost 80% of the way there, right, if you will. And so that's my concern. And so although there is 2, 3 years or 5 years even for this to actually get built out, and I appreciate the urgency to get into the design phase, I think that the question before the council sooner rather than later is going to be whether we want to continue to go down this road. And I suspect for most of us, an important component of that is what do some of the stakeholders say and what valuable information can they share that maybe can provide some clarity as to some of the stuff that we're reading in the memo. And so I'd wonder if the maker of the motion would entertain an amendment to give it a 1 week deferment before we bring it back to the full council. So slight adjustment to what you requested. But.
And what will happen in that week time?
Well, very good question. So Lori, do you think, I mean, week's a week, right? There's not tons of time, but I'm curious what type of conversations you think you can begin to broach with some of the stakeholders.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and let me be clear, I think it's very important to work with the stakeholders, and we absolutely plan to do that. I think a week isn't sufficient. You know, we need to sit down with the unions and really think through creating new union classifications to support this work, really engage with them, understand the impacts to PG&E's labor force as well, and make recommendations. And we plan to do all of that and are very open to that. And we have 5 years to do that at a minimum, because these lines will not be constructed until 2028. And so my recommendation would be to move forward so that we can get the costs associated with providing the service, which is what that application will allow us to do. And in parallel, we can start that engagement process well before the council would consider any further actions on this.
Okay. Well, I would say, I'm no Nostradamus, but I predict what may happen is if it comes forward and the proper conversations haven't been had, or folks haven't been brought to the table early on, that I suspect that other members of the council may express concern about that, and if we are truly interested in bringing this forward and allowing it to sort of continue down this path to that critical decision point that I fear we're already on, I'm not sure that the council, given the current structure as it relates to engaging other folks, is going to be supportive of it. But I guess I'm not sure 1 week is going to make a big difference just based on your response, and I suspect PG&E would probably need more time as well, and other stakeholders.
Well, that's my thought. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm always interested in more engagement, but it doesn't sound like 1 week is going to matter, and I haven't looked at the agenda on August 22nd to see how big of an agenda that is, and I'd hate to put this in an impacted agenda. I know we're going to adopt that in the next vote, but I mean, is that okay with you, council member? Not extending it for another week?
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer longer than a week, right? But I'm trying to be sensitive to the timeline that you're mentioning, Lori. So I'd be more sympathetic to longer than a week, but I realize that that's not even going to make a difference. And so I'll retract my request for a friendly amendment, and then depending on how that conversation goes, I may or may not support it. But thank you, Lori.
Thanks.
All right.
And if I could, of course, when council discusses this, they can always vote to delay it at the council level. I'd just like to get this in front of council and get some discussion, because in a week, nothing more will happen, or nothing of substance, let me put it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Vice Mayor Kamei.
Thank you so much. I too believe that this should go in front of council. However, the request today was for only that week. So for however it was determined from one of the largest providers, PG&E, I think that it's worth thinking about. Although we may think, well, in a week you can't, there's not a lot that's going to be done. I understand that there's a longer conversation that needs to be made, but I think that it's important to encourage greater participation. This is a huge project, really, really big. I mean, it's going to be tremendously significant for a very, very long time, and I think that it's worth holding it over a week, which is what was requested in order for a conversation to take place. I don't know what's on their mind, or why, they would like to have a conversation with our staff, or why they didn't reach out to them sooner, or whatever. But I think that it's important to encourage that participation and to be thoughtful in the engagement. Yes, there's going to be a second part where there's going to be much more longer conversation, but it's worth entertaining. So I think that it's important. Obviously, my colleague Sergio has asked for a friendly amendment, I would ask for that 1 week. Regardless, I looked at the August 22nd agenda. It is light. It is not as heavy, and it could be placed on that agenda item. I don't know what difference that would make, and I guess I would ask Lori, does a week make that much difference in terms of your timeline? But this is something that I think we should do.
All right, thank you. You know, I'm kind of ambivalent about the 1 week. I don't think it matters whether we do this on the 15th or 22nd. My understanding, based on what we heard from Lori, is that 1 week isn't going to change the result here. I think they're concerned about anything longer than a week. I also agree with Councilmember Foley that I'm not sure. I think the issues that are yet to be resolved are much more significant than 1 week issues. While you know, outreach and communication with stakeholders to say, here's what this means, it could be helpful, and we can still do that before next Tuesday's council meeting, actually, honestly, we should. I recommend, you know, having that conversation with PG&E and with whoever else feels we should have that conversation. I don't know that postponing it a week, though, resolves the really bigger issues which PG&E raises and other stakeholders raise about whether this is going to end up being affordable, whether it's the right thing for the city to engage in, whether it's, and all those decisions will be multi-year conversations that are necessary to have. It'll be absolutely essential to have stakeholder involvement. I can preview the fact that I planned with others to potentially submit a memo that requires certain levels of engagement during the process, so that we'll make sure that that will be incorporated into the process going forward. You know, I'm fine with postponing it. It looks like the 15th is a slightly less shorter meeting than the 22nd, but it's honestly, neither one matters to me. I just want to reiterate the basic point underneath all this, which is that there's probably once in a generation window occurring right now between now and 2028 while CAISO is putting in a new two new transmission lines into San Jose, and really the only time that it makes sense for us to be considering some interconnects that we might own as opposed to a different entity owning would be to do it in conjunction with CAISO's work that's happening right now in North San Jose and coming into downtown San Jose. So it's an important window that I believe we should take advantage of in order to pursue an option that gives us some future flexibility. And the key word there that Lori mentioned is option. What this action would do is give us an option going forward that otherwise would not be available to us. So anyway, I mean, if it's the will to postpone it 1 extra week, that's fine. Maybe I would just recommend that we keep it on the 15th, but we ask that a conversation occurs with the stakeholders between now and next Tuesday, which would probably be the same conversation that would occur even if we postponed it by a week, and that we keep it on the 15th agenda, if that's acceptable to colleagues. So, unless there, I see.
Thank you, Chair Cohen. I agree with everything you said. I think this has not come before council at all as an idea. And so I think it's worth having that discussion sooner rather than later with the council. Happy to have staff have some preliminary conversations before that, but I think getting the temperature of the council sooner rather than later actually makes sense before Lori goes off and does a bunch of outreach that may or may not be necessary. So I think keeping it for next week actually makes more sense than delaying it a week so that the council can weigh in and provide direction about what kinds of outreach and what other things that maybe we should be thinking about as we go forward. And I hope that there'll be a presentation on the decision points that we will be taking and kind of maybe a rough timeline if you have it when you do come to us for council. Great, I see nodding, thank you.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. I'm going to ask for us to move to a vote unless there, Councilmember, may I see your light went on?
I guess what I would encourage is for there to be a conversation from now until it comes before council, because obviously there needs to be some communication there, so I would highly encourage that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Now we'll move on to a vote. I think we have to do a voice vote still.
Yes, and we don't need to roll call it.
Point of order, so does it include a week or? or no?
No, we're
we-
not going to change it, no. At least that's not the current motion. So I think we're just going to do a voice vote, aye and nay? Okay.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? All right. Well, kids, we don't have abstentions here, so
I'm going to click
carries.
restart sign in and see if anything pops up on your screen. Just your name. Is there anything, can you click on it or anything? No. Nope. Okay. We're going to let it go for the rest of the meeting then.
All right, the new technology, we'll figure it out. Now we're on to the agenda for Tuesday, August 22nd. Once again, we have a 9:30 closed session, 1:30 open session, and no evening.
Yes,
Oh, yes, we do. We do have an
actually,
evening
the
session. Are we, and
the-
this one is an evening session that has to be in the evening?
The administration recommends that the maker of the motion cancel the evening session.
Okay.
Okay, good.
So we'll notice those land use items for afternoon. Okay, great. So let's start then on consent on page 5. Continuing on page 6, 7, 8, 9. We have under strategic support, airport shuttle bus service contract, tree care services, and a elevator upgrade project for the Market Street Garage. Section 4, Police Department reform. Section 8, Housing Crisis Work Team status report. And then we have on land use, page 11, land use, just one item on land use consent, which we will notice then for the afternoon. Any public comment?
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Sounds like you did some nice work on that last item. Thank you. For this item, 2.10 is about funding agreements for the future of urban villages things. I thought it would be important to remind yourselves at this time, for years I've been talking about urban villages as not being, finding funding for urban villages, not just through high-end developers, but that it can serve low-income housing in our future. I think that's an important goal to work on. Good luck in those efforts. Item 2.12 and item 4 something are related. You're actually going to have the police reform ideas take place. I think that's part of what was asked for way back in April that keeps being put off. But I'm not sure. Operational improvement and just better human services practices, along with the psychological report things. I talked often after the George Floyd things. There's ideas about mutual aid, where there's just good psychological services for police, for each other, learning those good skills. It was eventually supplemented into the domestic violence program, I think, that I hope that it can be time to bring up those ideas again. There were really good plans and practices for that. We should talk about that stuff, if you can. I guess that leads me to the housing crisis thing. I talked a lot yesterday about the woman who had trouble yesterday. I'm learning more about her situation and what's happened, and I can understand it better. I still think the need of just openness and how to deal with those sort of situations in the future has to be always first and foremost. And good luck on how to do that. I'll probably talk more about this at open forum. And thank you.
Going to our virtual speakers, Casey.
Yes, I apologize. My statement was on 6.1, and I believe you guys have already voted on it, so it's probably past my time to give a statement.
Okay, back to the committee.
All right, thank you. Is there other comments or motion on this agenda?
I would so move with the
There's no RG yet.
no evening.
Oh, right, well, that's right, without
Yeah,
canceling
no
the evening
evening,
session.
yeah.
Good.
Second.
All right, so there's a motion to approve the agenda for the 22nd with no evening session. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. Now we're on to the consent calendar. There's 7 items on consent, and we'll go to public comment.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Monthly report on activities for June and July 2023 and to approve the city auditor's fiscal year report. Last time we saw each other was back in June. Good luck on how we're working on neighborhood issues, and that I'm hoping things like crime statistics and vehicle accidents have not been too bad in San Jose. They've been okay. And that means good community effort from everyone. Thank you. I hope that's what's happening. And I wanted to weigh in and offer my public comment on the current union, city government union issues that can be a part of the city auditor's fiscal year 2023-24 work report. It's my feeling, I'm not very good at depth with these sort of issues, but on the surface, I think we have a really good impressive years coming up in 24 and 25 around community issues and community building and community projects. And it's my sincere hope we don't hurt that. And I think that should be first and foremost in our minds how we're talking about what is a pretty substantial pay raises for city government workers over the next few years. It's my personal feeling on the top, on the surface, that they're asking for like 5% raises this first upcoming year. I think that can be reduced a lot to like maybe 2%, which is about $2,000 a month. That's still a lot, I think, and it respects things. We can work on the 12% plan over the upcoming years, and it's with that we can really focus and concentrate as a full community process on some really good city projects that are coming up. And I really hope those aren't going to be hurt. And I hope city government, if they can hear this, can take this to heart. I'm sorry if I'm a little shallow about the matter, but this is everyday public giving you an opinion on this subject. I hope you can take it to heart. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion for the consent calendar?
Move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, consent calendar is adopted 5-0. So now we're on to our two memos. Item 1, addressing RVs around schools. I think we had somebody from, I don't know if Mackenzie from the mayor's office was going to be here to introduce the memo. Or is she online? I don't know, I thought, or on Zoom, okay. So we can, Mackenzie's hands up, I guess we can recognize her to introduce the memo.
She's rejoining as a panelist.
Thank you, Chair. If it's all right with you, I'd like to suggest that we go to public comment first.
Okay, we can move on to public comment on this item, and then we'll ask questions if they arise after the public comment. So let's move on to public comment.
All right, we have a number of public commenters in person. So as I call your name, please go ahead and make your way to the podium. Alfredo, Gorsharer, Brittany, Viana, Elena. And as you get to the mic, please state your name.
Alfredo Hernandez Jr. Good afternoon. I am Alfredo Hernandez Jr., a 12th grade student at KIPP San Jose Collegiate High School, and I also hold the role of president and founder of the KIPP San Jose Collegiate High School Democrats. Our coalition initiated and leads this movement, and we are here today to address a matter that weighs heavily on our hearts. Throughout my time here, I've witnessed and heard of numerous experiences involving my classmates in the RV community neighboring our school on Educational Park Drive. These issues have ranged from unhoused individuals within the RV community trespassing onto campus during school hours to interactions with my classmates that involve theft and the presence of drugs. These experiences bring about feelings of dread and disappointment, as my classmates have faced genuine threats to their safety and security. As a fellow student in this high school, hearing the concerns of my peers has led me to question my own safety and wonder if I might be the next to face such challenges. The RV community is a mere 30 feet away from our school. This memorandum offers a potential solution to the challenges my classmates have been coping with a particular focus on enhancing safety and security at KIPP San Jose Collegiate. With your approval of this memorandum, we would not only be acknowledging the well-being of our current students, but also paving the way for future generations. This is of great importance to me, especially considering my strong desire to spare future East San Jose students from enduring the same distressing safety and security challenges. The hardships that our current students have faced are already burdensome, and the need for swift action is undeniable. Guiding my peers as the president of the KIPP San Jose Collegiate High School Democrats, I've shared in their sorrow and pain. Rejecting this memorandum would subject our students to further suffering. Enduring another year under these conditions is unimaginable. Approving this memorandum is the practical and necessary solution for the well-being of high school students like us. Thank you, Council.
Gershon Bola. Hi, I'm Gershon Bola. I'm a student at KIPP San Jose Collegiate, and I want to provide some of my personal experiences surrounding the issue around safety at our local school. I would like to talk about the lack of safety around the school as seen in the memorandum. We have experienced numerous break-ins to which our school simply cannot afford. The repairs for these items come directly outside of the collective school pocket and leaves the students deprived of what's promised to the educational system. Not only has the break-ins shattered the concept of safety, it continues to shackle the advancement of our school. Ultimately, if anything transformative is to be done to improve the safety of our school, we would simply be unable to, not being able to afford due to constant break-ins and destruction of property. Creating a buffer around schools is a first step in assuring the greater safety of San Jose students, especially in our coalition. As a group of students, we understand that homelessness in San Jose is not something that can simply be solved by moving around the unhoused. But as a collective, I am certain that we can agree homelessness is not something students should have to walk by every single day on the way to school. Hopefully, in the future, we can work jointly in creating a solution, providing those outside our campus with stable housing and ensuring that they are successful. However, most pressing for us as students is our lack of safety as seen firsthand. Thank you.
Brittany DeWong. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Brittany DeWong, and I'm an 11th grade student at KIPP San Jose Collegiate High School located on Educational Park Drive in East San Jose. I'm a proud student athlete as I've participated in cross country. However, the RV community neighboring our school has negatively impacted the experience of my teammates and I. Due to our school lacks of athletic facilities, we had to improvise and use neighboring grounds in order to practice. Cross country requires an area to run for our long distance practices, and the RV community neighboring our school has caused disruptions, but also dangerous situations my teammates have to go through. Female runners have been required to run in groups and not alone. This was due to the fact that many of us have been followed by those residing in the RVs in the area while on our runs. I was on a run with one of my female teammates when someone from the line of RVs called out to us. We ignored their comments and continued running, but we could not help but notice them following us from behind. Afraid, we made a dash to the corner of the block and bumped into a group of our male runners. We were running back towards campus to finish their first lap. We had to ask them to accompany us back to campus, not knowing whether the person from before was still there or not. This is just one of many incidents. As mentioned before, we had countless break-ins, especially in our vans that our sports teams depend on in order to go to our meets. Due to our vans being either stolen or broken, we had to make the hard decision to cut many of our runners from participating in competitions. My teammates and I shouldn't have to experience these challenges. Therefore, I sincerely hope you pass this memorandum, as it would make our school safer and make me feel more secure. Thank you.
Viana Alvarez. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Viana Alvarez, and I am a 12th grade student at the KIPP San Jose Collegiate High School, located on Educational Park Drive in East San Jose. I am also a student athlete, and the break-ins have deeply affected the athletic department in many ways. This includes athletic vans that each sport uses as transportation for games are continuously being stolen and have left players needing to find their own ways of transportation. Not only does this leave the school having to pay for all the damages, but it is extremely inconvenient and tiresome of the same thing happening over and over again. One day, when I was at the store, I saw an unhoused individual not far from school that was wearing a stolen soccer uniform. Not only was it surprising, but it showed that because they are so close to our campus, we never know what they are capable of doing. I shouldn't have to experience these challenges. For that reason, I sincerely hope that you pass this memorandum, as it would make our school safer and make me feel more secure. Thank you.
I'm going to call the next set of names: Mary, Susan, Fernanda, Reese, and Liz.
Elena Santiago. Good afternoon, council members. I'm Elena Santiago, a student at San José Collegiate High School and the vice president of KHGC High School Democrats. I am here to request your support in approving the memorandum that the mayor and my school have been working on the past few months. I want to go more in depth about the issues the school and students have dealt with. As you may know, the past few years, the unhoused individuals have been breaking into our schools, stealing from our classrooms and our resources. Staff and students on campus no longer feel safe with these unhoused individuals coming onto campus during the day and late at night. My mom, Patty Santiago, has been the director of school operations at KHGC for the last 15 years. In the past 2 years, my mom has gotten multiple calls from the security company informing her there has been a break-in at our high school. My mom has had to wake up in the middle of the night and meet with these police officers at school countless times. During these incidents, my anxiety would keep me awake until she returned. The school has had a total of 6 vans, 2 that were totaled and 1 that was never recovered. In multiple incidents, our vans' gas tanks that have been drilled to acquire $50 worth of gas, and in return, it cost the school over $1,000 to replace the gas tanks. This is only a few of the issues regarding the vans. In addition, my mom has had to call the police 15 times to report a break-in. Besides the vans, items that have been stolen include laptops, canopies, propane tanks, uniforms, athletic jerseys, PE equipment, and etc. On the last month of school, on our way home, we noticed some of the unhoused individuals wearing our KIP uniforms. Lastly, our fence have been cut over 13 times, and our classroom windows have been shattered at least 5 times. In the most recent break-in, an individual was caught on camera breaking windows to 4 classrooms but never entered the classrooms. The individual was just there to vandalize the school. Over these countless break-ins, it has cost the school thousands of dollars, but most importantly, I want the city council to know that I and my fellow classmates no longer feel safe at school. And the passage of this item will change that. Thank you.
I live in District 3 in San Jose, and I'm here today with Surge, Stand Up for Racial Justice. Every day I see our unhoused neighbors struggling to live in my neighborhood. I'm concerned about the proposal to establish no encampment zones in San Jose. We need to have adequate plans for dealing with this issue without using law enforcement to move people around. This is intrinsically traumatizing for people who may be vulnerable. It can break up their communities, and it isn't effective in the long run. We need non-sworn public workers to be our service and outreach providers. We need to put our resources into proven ways to end homelessness. Interim housing has a role, but we need to really push efforts to develop long-term, stable, affordable housing. And maybe even more important, we need to work to prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place. It's much more effective, and in the long run, it's cheaper. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Susan Price, and I'm here like Mary, with Surge from Sacred Heart Community Services. We've heard previous speakers talking about the criminals who are homeless, or we think those criminals are homeless, but I want to present a picture of like the woman who's sleeping on my sofa, who is indicative of what's happening in my neighborhood, and her son, who is an adult with his therapy dog. He works, but he's sleeping in his truck. They both have been, they're being treated for colon cancer, but they were pushed out of their apartment that they had been living in for a long time. They were the longest tenants in that particular apartment complex, but those are the ones who get targeted because they're paying the least amount of rent because of rent control, which is, and so anyway, they are now out on the street, or one is, like I say, the mother is living on my sofa. But I don't want the city to be creating widespread no encampment zones and further victimizing people who have been victims of basically what is speculative real estate investment, where investors, many of them Wall Street, many of them from out of the city, from out of the state, and from overseas, are buying up properties that we have termed as to be naturally affordable. Those are older apartment buildings. Usually the tenants are lower income people, often people of color, as are the woman sleeping on my sofa who is Latina and doesn't speak much English. These speculators buy these naturally affordable housing, as the city calls them. They call them underperforming buildings in real estate parlance, and they buy them and then raise the rents beyond what the tenants can afford, and then when they can't afford it, or if they pay a day late, they get evicted. And believe me, I'm trying to find this woman.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker, please.
My name is Reese Enghart, local community member and member of Showing Up for Racial Justice at Sacred Heart, speaking in solidarity with survivors of the streets and racial equity and community safety at Sacred Heart. I've heard stories of unhoused people being swept without enough notice and having their belongings taken away, and it always breaks my heart to hear those stories. Imagine the experience of having so little and then having that taken away from you too. Nobody deserves that, right? Everybody deserves an environment that is safe and comfortable for them. Of course, these students deserve a safe and comfortable learning environment too. But if we criminalize people who experience homelessness, that will make it harder for them to achieve permanent stable housing and harder for them to attend work or school or all of these things. So I'm asking you to decriminalize. Do not move forward with an approach that relies on law enforcement. Instead, develop community-based responses that include conversations between unhoused and housed neighbors to resolve complaints and to connect people with services. And I also support more funding for such community-based services to find a holistic solution to homelessness as a systemic problem. Thank you.
Hello, council members. My name is Fernanda, and I'm a senior here at Cape San Jose Collegiate, member of the KSJC Democrats, and a resident of District 5. Earlier these past weeks, I was given the opportunity to help create this ordinance and share my story with the public about being followed by an RV resident. It's sad to say, but when this happened, I wasn't scared. I grew up my whole life around these type of situations in all different kinds of schools, just like many kids in the East Side. This situation occurred in late 2022 and was one that truly showed me how much attention our school is lacking when it comes to maintaining safety. And although that is one of the most unfortunate things someone can say, it's the harsh reality many students face. However, today we can help change that. Although my story is important, just like the many others you will hear today, I am coming here to advocate and speak on behalf of the student members of DNT, Devuélvenos Nuestra Comunidad, a neighborhood organization structured by me and several supporting members advocating for change and prioritizing our community safety and upkeep since late 2021. There are 4 members within our neighborhood organization that are currently or have recently attended KSJC or the neighboring school institutions. These students, whom have attended neighboring schools and KSJC, have had all their own personal experiences and safety concerns regarding the RV situation and the risk factors that are present among them. Ashley Villeda and her little sister can no longer walk home due to the past experiences where they have seen RV residents yell hurtful comments to them walking past. Due to the stories and the RV residents in our area near the schools, they feel like they can no longer walk the 15-minute path to their school. Angela, a member of DNC, wasn't able to attend today, but informed me that she herself has seen multiple times where RV residents have attempted to provoke students.
Thank you. Next speaker.
And calling the next batch of speakers as well, Chris, Shide or Shide, Blair, Gio, and Frankie.
Hi everyone, my name is Liz Gonzalez. I'm from East San Jose and I'm also part of Silicon Valley Debug. We wrote a letter opposing this memo. We are an organization that has worked with youth for more than 20 years, and we support families who have loved ones incarcerated, and we know too well the impacts to entire families in our communities when loved ones get entangled in the criminal legal system. We are all for protecting youth, for protecting everyone in this city, but criminalizing our unhoused neighbors for things that already carry legal consequences is not the answer. This city struggles so much to actually move forward policies that prevent homelessness, that support families, that meet their needs, but then is willing to fast-track a ban when there is nowhere to relocate the people, because this isn't about RVs and encampments, it's about people and entire families with children that often live in those RVs. There's nowhere to put them. We cannot criminalize our way to safety. Please reject this memo and its direction. And it really feels walking in here like you are socializing us to be, just to accept this with the metal detectors and the wanding, just to participate in this conversation. It's so unnecessary. It doesn't feel good. It feels criminalizing itself, because if I'm gonna be wanded every single time I come in here with my colleagues, the folks on here that sit here in the suits, and I watch them go in, they don't have to open their bags, they don't get wanded. Do it to everybody or don't do it at all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members and staff. My name is Chris Copolilo. My role is Managing Director of Policy, Enrollment, Advocacy, and Community Engagement at KIPP Public Schools, Northern California. And I'm here in support of the San Jose Collegiate students that you've heard from already and we'll hear from more. I'm gonna read from a letter that KIPP Northern California submitted yesterday together with school leaders at 2 co-located schools on the Independence High School campus to members of this committee. Members, the presence of unhoused individuals seeking basic amenities such as using our bathrooms during the school day, a situation we observed more than once last year, highlights pressing issues of equity and social responsibility. While our hearts reach out in understanding and compassion for these community members, it's equally crucial to ensure that our students have a safe and uninterrupted space for learning. The recurring nature of these incidents underscores the urgent need for more inclusive solutions in our broader community. As we work towards addressing these challenges, our priority remains to provide a secure and conducive learning environment for our students, while also advocating for resources and support for the unhoused. Council members, the issue of how we ensure a safe learning environment for our students while remaining attuned to the needs of everyone in our community is worth a discussion by the full council. We appreciate the committee's consideration of this item, look forward to opportunities for continued partnership, learning, and discussion on the issue. We're an educational institution, and that's our priority. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Francisco Martinez, and I attend KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in the memo, and I implore you that you please pass this item. And that's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Shade Fazili. I am a parent of a 9th grader at KIPP San Jose Collegiate. If anyone had told me back in 2009 when I was bringing my son home from the hospital that I'd be standing before this council on his very first day of high school, I would have been actually kind of heartbroken, to be honest. Nevertheless, here I am asking you to support the students of KIPP San Jose Collegiate in calling for a policy that would create a secure and focused learning environment for our school. Our kids deserve learning environments free from risks, distractions, and fear. I ask you to support the recommendation of the students, these amazing students, to ensure that we meet the basic expectation of a safe academic experience for all children in our community. Thank you so much for your time.
All right, my name is Giovanni Medina,
And I just wanted to be another voice for these kids. And I think that the safety and security of the children should be first and foremost. So yeah, I think that there should be like a lot better planning for the people that don't have a place to live either. I'm always talking about how they should probably build a resort or two, one for ones that are hooked on drugs, one for ones that are trying to clean up and move on from that type of life, and not to criminalize them or anything, but I think the safety and security of the children is first and foremost, and I really believe in passing this bill. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and I think there's a lot more planning that needs to be done too on top of that, but it's a step in the right direction, and I'll just end my time there. Thank you.
Calling the next batch of speakers, Reshna, Aldo, Darby, and Christian.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for the words from people from Surge. It's my feeling that the metal detectors issue should be kind of a temporary solution and idea, and we should be in that mind frame, because really nice words are spoken. It's a pain to deal with those metal detectors. We should be in a better mind frame to consider them as temporary, not permanent. Thank you to the students who've spoken today. I mean, they've made clear that they're having problems, and something's gone wrong, and it's uncomfortable with especially at the educational park school. I feel it's now time. It's from that we have to really consider good decision making. And what was also spoken by Serge, two persons from Serge, just spoke of how it needs to be a people effort. We need to consider community projects, community thinking. I hope there can be ways housing staff can talk to the RV people, campers themselves, and find people within the RV community we can learn to develop better skills. Obviously something's gone a little wrong, and we have to talk about living in a neighborhood and what that entails. We have to work on the RV safe parking issues. With me being in San Diego right now, we're dealing with encampment issues and ordinance issues that are pretty stringent, and they're a bit off the mark. And I think you guys know that. And what can we do? How can we do it better here in San Jose? They're using police as like a major frontline usage with their encampment issues. How do we bring housing staff to really address these issues and make it a community process, a community dialogue, so we're safe, so we feel safe? Good luck how we can do that and how you're going to be talking about this issue. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name's Aldo Carmona, and I represent KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in the memo, and I urge you to please pass the item. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Christian Monarez, and I live in the East Side Bay Area, correct? And I have multiple events of homeless people coming into my home and destroying my property, giving me an unsafe home already. And I have to deal with this every single day going to school, already knowing that I have to deal with either a school shooting or homeless people coming into our school. So I recommend that you pass this memo in order to think about the students where they have to deal with homeless people outside their homes and at school. Because all you should know about school is labeled as a safe haven, even though it's not anymore. So please, I ask urgently that you pass this memo to think about school safety and students as well. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Breshna Mumtaz, and I attend KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in the memo and ask that you please pass the item. Thank you.
Calling the next batch, Aaron, Angeles, Matthew, and Dan.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Darby Lee. I'm a student at KIPP San Jose Collegiate, and I am here today to represent them. I support the recommendation of this memo, and I kindly ask that you pass this memo. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name's Aaron Dang, and I represent KIPP San Jose Collegiate. And I also support the recommendation in the memo, and I ask that you please pass it. That's all. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Angeles, and I attend to KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in the memo and ask that you please pass the item.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Matthew Huyn. I also attend KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in this memo and I ask that you please pass this item for the safety and privacy of our students. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Ding Kai Wen. I'm representing a ninth grade student of KIPP San Jose Collegiate. I support the recommendation in the memo and ask that you please pass this item.
Okay, moving on to our virtual speakers. Deborah, followed by Catherine.
Hi, I'm Deborah St. Julian. I live in District 2 and I'm a member of Showing Up for Racial Justice, speaking in solidarity with survivors of the street and the Race Equity and Public Safety Committee. And I'm also speaking as a person of faith whose teacher called us to love our neighbors as ourselves. I agree with Liz Gonzalez at Silicon Valley Debug that we cannot criminalize our way to safety. I feel bad for our over 9,000 brothers and sisters who do not have housing in San Jose. And I feel bad for these students who are experiencing the consequences of our failure as adults to address the housing crisis. But instead of criminalizing our homeless brothers and sisters, I ask us to model new ways to address the issues in using community processes to communicate with each other, like Matt Mahan's talking about his initiative for In Together San Jose. These unhoused folks are not all, I mean, as someone else said, you know, they got pushed out of their housing. They might have medical needs. So we need to speak to each other and create community-based processes. And we also need to create safe parking so that these brothers and sisters don't have to park on the street. There is no place to sweep these people. I live in a community where my kids went to Davis and Andrew Hill and walked by homeless people still, and we need to address this at, you know, upstream where it's what the causes are, and continuing to criminalize and sweep people does not solve things. And let's model better solutions for our kids here. And I applaud the kids for coming and talking. Thank you.
Catherine, followed by Debbie.
Good afternoon. I'm Catherine Hedges. I live in District 3, and I'm also a member of Surge, same affiliations. I really feel for the students. This sounds like a really bad situation for them. But I don't know how it's going to solve the problem to move them 120 feet further away. They're still going to be able to, you know, anybody who's going to make trouble is still going to make trouble. And it seems like if we had a neighborhood watch that could crack down on people like, hey, if you're going to yell at the students, you have to leave. Hey, what are you doing going on campus? You know, if they need bathrooms, get them porta potties like we did during the pandemic. We have porta potties and hygiene stations, and work with, you know, and we don't have a place to sweep people to. And the problem is the behavior. And if we make it clear that people can't stay there if they're, you know, harassing the students or going on campus or whatever bad behavior they're committing, and they leave, then, you know, encampment, you know, good encampment sites always fill up again. And if we eliminate the people who are making problems, then the people who are just, you know, unable to rent an apartment and live in an RV, the people with disabilities, the people with part-time jobs or whatever, they could, you know, have informal community in collaboration with the surrounding community, homeowners and renters and stuff. But we need to, work on eliminating the bad behavior of the people camped near the school. And we don't, and just like there's people who hang out by my building and make trouble that don't live in my building, how do we know all those people live in the
Debbie, followed by Matt.
My name is Debbie Au. I live in District 7. I'm a member of Show Up for Racial Justice at Sacred Heart, and I'm speaking in solidarity with the Race, Equity, and Community Safety Committee and Survivors of the Street, which are all affiliated with Sacred Heart. I'm concerned that people living in encampments are being treated as criminals and will be forced to move from their homes by police action. The needs of these people are not being met, and we have failed them. And we have also failed these students who have spoken here today. Children should be safe, but implementing no encampment zones will further traumatize our most vulnerable residents unless there is some place for them to go. I would rather see our communities come together to address problems rather than relying on the police to clear out such encampments. Homelessness will not be solved overnight, and moving people around just causes more suffering. Please act with compassion and follow the golden rule. Treat others like you would want to be treated. Thank you.
Matt, followed by Andrew.
Good afternoon, Matt King with Sacred Heart Community Service, and speaking today on behalf of the REAL Coalition. Just want to ask everybody to take a breath here and think about how a ban is not going to help students or anyone else have more safety. And let's take the time to think about how we can really accomplish that goal and how we can accomplish that goal together, how we can incorporate the students and residents, whether housed or unhoused, near the KIPP school being talked about today, or any other school in our city, about what safety looks like for people and how we can all take responsibility for that in a way that does not involve the police, in a way that does not criminalize people, in a way that does not push people farther away from safe and stable housing. It's been pretty clear from the students' testimony that there's some strong emerging leaders in this community, and I would like to invite them to talk with us and talk to other people in the community about what safety can look like without involving the police, without criminalizing people. And as I've been doing for a while, want to encourage our city council and other city leaders to get out of this mindset that police equal safety and to think about what we can be doing differently. Thank you.
Andrew, followed by Sigrid.
Hi, my name is Andrew Siegler, and I am with Surge at Sacred Heart, and I'm speaking in solidarity with survivors of the streets and the Race, Equity, Community Safety Committee. So I'm a formerly unhoused individual, and I can tell you, being out there sucks. It really sucks. Now, I also remember being a kid and feeling unsafe at various times in my life. And that also sucks. And the thing is, homelessness is a symptom of the fact that rent and housing are far too expensive in this city. I mean, this city has lost 70,000 people in the last 4 years, moving to other places because it's too expensive. And then there's the people that couldn't move, and they're out on the streets now. And now our students, our children, are suffering from the boneheaded policy decisions that led to mass homelessness. So how about stop this whole idea of criminalizing people and creating bans and 150-foot barriers between, I mean, this is nonsense. It's utter nonsense, and it's morally reprehensible. And it's not going to make the students safer. It's not going to make anybody in the community safer. It's not going to make the homeless people safer. It's not going to get homeless people closer to getting housing. But, making policy that streamlines affordable housing and putting rent control, that will solve the problem. So think about that. Don't pass this. Have a good day.
Sigrid, followed by Gail.
Hi, my name is Sigrid Jacobson. I'm a teacher at a local Catholic high school. So my heart particularly is hit by these stories of students who've shared their stories today. I'm also a member of Surge at Sacred Heart and a parishioner in the Diocese of San Jose. So in regards to moving ahead with this approach to encampments that might criminalize our unsheltered neighbors, I'm reminded of the parable of the Good Samaritan. And Jesus tells this story to respond to a lawyer who asked him, "Who is our neighbor?" And when the Samaritan aids the person lying on the side of the road, he doesn't say, "Sir, you're going to have to move to the other side of the road before I can help you, or I will arrest you." No, the Samaritan bandages the victim, treats him with mercy, and then moves the victim to safety. Everyone in our community is our neighbor. We don't get to pick who is our neighbor. School students, those who have spoken today, other students, and the unsheltered, all should be treated with mercy, and all deserve safety. So my question is, and it's a hard one, it's a lot harder than just getting more police out there, is how will you love and support our unsheltered neighbors by engaging the whole community, including these students, in dialogue without involving law enforcement? That would make the unsheltered people living on our streets criminals simply because of where they sleep. Thank you.
Gail?
Hi, good afternoon. Well, here we go again, criminalizing my unhoused friends living outside. I have been going out to educational parks, meeting with the unhoused RV folks living there, and never once have I felt unsafe. In fact, I felt very respectful. They were very respectful towards me. I also want to inform you, I'm sure some of you know that maybe if you've been out there are 5 large truckers living out there. How do we know? I'm not pointing a finger at the truckers, but they're also living out there and also on the side streets. And what I don't understand is why would people living inside an RV sleep on school grounds when they have a little home to go to, or sleep in the school bathroom? That I don't understand. But I would like to ask Councilman Ortiz and somebody from the mayor's office if they would like to meet with myself and ask student Alfredo Hernandez, sir, if you would like to meet with the unhoused folks there, let's have a meeting and sit down and talk to them with some of your students and yourself, of course, and see what can be worked out in the interim. And I think that would be very important. I'm not sure if you have met any of them, but the unhoused that I have met out there have been very nice. Also, we have to look at the truckers. I'm sorry, but you know, the unhoused are you know, a group of people that everybody points their fingers at. And if you're interested in that, Alfredo, Councilmember Ortiz has my information. I would love to set that up. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for the comment. I'm always particularly encouraged when I see thoughtful, smart students showing up and sharing their input. It was great to hear your comments as part of this discussion today. I am one of the people who signed on to this memo, so I'll just talk about it briefly and then open it up for other discussion amongst the council members, amongst my colleagues here. You know, we had a discussion, I don't remember when it was, a year and a half ago, about a buffer zone around schools, which was 150 feet buffer zone for homeless encampments around schools. I was uncomfortable at that time, and I expressed it at that meeting because to me 150 feet seemed arbitrary, and there are sometimes locations within 150 feet that might even be safer for students walking to and from school than the 200 feet or 250 feet. And I was concerned about where would people go as they were moved out from around schools. And so we have to be thoughtful about any policy we put in place. And for consistency, signed on to the concept of if we're going to have a 150-foot buffer zone around schools, that it ought to include RVs just like it does encampments, because it doesn't really make sense to do it for one and have a policy that doesn't apply the same. There are some questions I still have about how this policy will play out, what the enforcement will be, and whether there could even be enforcement, how it could work. I'm concerned about putting the cart before the horse a little bit, because we've been pushing really hard to find locations to move people, and I've been very uncomfortable saying let's have people move until we have something to offer them as a place to go. And unfortunately, we'll have this conversation in other places about the timeline for our safe RV parking sites. They're not coming along as fast as we'd like, and we don't yet have enough space for them. Just to put some context on this particular site, this site was in my district until redistricting, so I'm very familiar with it, Independence High School. And this is not just, by the way, KIP. I appreciate the students from KIP there, but this is probably the largest high school campus in the city of San Jose. Independence High School, KIP, and I think Downtown Prep has their school there. It's the adult education campus, and the Educational Park Library are all on this campus. So this is not affecting only students from the one school. It's affecting, I think, 2,500 plus students who attend that campus. Just to be clear, this is a quite impactful, and I've heard it from residents for my entire time on council about this particular street. However, this policy is not just about this particular street. So I'll make some comments about that after. First, I know there's an early consideration form, as is standard for all of our memos, and so I'll ask Lee to address that.
Thank you, Chair. Lee Wilcox, Assistant City Manager. Good to see so many of you here with us today. The early consideration form does greenlight the policy and program design work so that it can come forward in 90 days. Obviously, Chair, as you've pointed out, there's some policy considerations that you guys can make in 90 days, as well as particulars around program design and costs that you would want to know. We will be pushing the larger implementation of that if council wants to have that conversation in 90 days, which would align with the budget process, because there ultimately would probably be resources to implement some of this based off of what the program design does look like. With that said, Omar Passons and I have chatted. We are going to work with staff looking at existing tools and the existing code that we have to see what can be done, in particular at this site, given the impact on the school and the safety concerns. So we'll try and do that in parallel as we go on.
All right, thank you. I know we had Representative McKenzie representing the mayor's office on Zoom. If you can, just in 1 minute, if you want to add anything to the context of the memo before we continue the discussion on the committee.
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really to add in terms of context. I did want to thank all of the students at KIP, Councilmember Ortiz, for working with us on this. And I think you summarized it well. When we started looking into this issue with the students, we realized that while we had the 150-foot buffer zone for encampments, that didn't include RVs because they are technically legally distinct given the California State Vehicle Code. And we did refresh our memory that council gave staff direction in 2021 to explore including RVs within the school buffer zone, but that direction wasn't really specific enough to produce a formal ordinance. So we're really just seeking consistency within our encampment management strategy to apply this school buffer zone to encampments and RVs so that we can guarantee that students feel safe when they're walking to campus, and when they're at school, they have a distraction-free environment. And to this issue of resources, we recognize that staff resources are limited, but we're hopeful that we can take a phased approach to implementation, considering not every school, childcare facility, or daycare in San Jose is impacted by RV encampments. So thank you for the time.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity as a parent and former school board member to say truly how proud I am of the students that are here advocating for yourselves, for your safety, for the students around you, and for the community of KIP, and actually Independent High School that I think has a attendance population of about 4,000. It's a big school. It's a big school. Is your teacher here? No. Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge and praise the teachers for encouraging your students to take this path. And students, I was extremely impressed on what you had to say, and I completely agree with you that you need to feel safe in your environment. Schools, unfortunately, aren't feeling that safe anymore, but we should do everything we can to help make them safe havens, continue to make them safe havens for you. With that, are you ready for a motion or no? Okay, I would move acceptance of the item and have it placed on the council agenda for August 15th.
Actually, just to clarify the agenda, I don't think we would be putting it on the agenda next week. We would be,
sorry.
our direction is for staff to come back in 90
Yeah.
days with a proposal.
I'm
Correct.
sorry, I was
Yeah.
looking at the wrong
Yeah,
date
yeah.
on the wrong item.
Okay. All right.
So I take away the 15th thing.
All right, Councilmember Kamei.
Thank you. One of the things that's clear to me, I also want to thank the students and the community members who participated on today's meeting. I think it's very clear that there's a concern about criminalizing homelessness and living in RVs, and I think that the intent is not to. So I think that that's an emphasis that I think we should put into it. And I don't know if it makes, I mean, there are already laws on the books and ordinances that prohibit certain activities, criminal activities, and this is really a draft ordinance for that would be non-criminal. I mean, the intent, as I see it, is not to create criminalizing RVs or parking RVs. So I think that needs to be really spelled out. And if we wanted to put that in there in terms of a draft non-criminal ordinance, I don't know if it makes a difference, because I do know that an ordinance doesn't necessarily have to give that criminal tone, but I think that it's becoming very clear to me that it is an important factor. So I think that if we're going to give direction to the city manager to come back in 90 days, that the intent is really non-criminal ordinance, as opposed to what people may have in their minds as to what exactly we want to do, because that is not the intent of what I heard today, and I don't think that anybody wants to do that. So I don't know if we have to add anything or if there's just consensus or understanding, but I think that it's important to highlight that part, because I think that is what people want. We do want our students to be safe. We want our community to be safe, but we want our entire community, even those living in RVs, to be safe as well. There are those circumstances that have caused students to feel fearful, breaking in and doing all of these other things. But there are laws on the books to be able to deal with that. And I know that our staff is very mindful of that. So I just wanted to make that emphasis. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor. I think that's important context that our ordinances aren't all criminal. I mean, we have parking ordinances and all ordinances about rules that we must follow, and so this is, I think, would be in the spirit of a parking ordinance, but we still have to leave that up to the staff to figure out exactly the spirit of that, how that is written. Councilmember Jimenez?
Yeah, thank you. It's very clear to me that the teachers and staff at KIPP, and I suspect that some of the other schools have really, and which I think is a good thing, by the way, but have really taken this opportunity to have this be a learning opportunity for the students, and coming up here and speaking in front of some of the council. A lot of folks actually never step into this chamber and don't really know what the heck goes on at the city, so I think even that is important. But I would just, if I may, just make a recommendation, because I think oftentimes many of the issues that we face in our city, it's oftentimes we have opposing sides not necessarily talking to each other. And I think that creates a lot of misunderstandings in our city and our society. And so I would just put this out there as an idea for all the adults in the room that are here with the kids, is to is this idea of really extending the learning opportunity outside of this chamber, but taking it back to the school, to the neighbors, to really, I think, utilizing, in fact, some of the folks that have commented online, as well as some of the folks that are here, including some of the folks from Debug as an example, to actually engage a lot of these residents and maybe have a meeting in which you actually have a discussion with some of the people that are living in the RVs, so that way you can better understand the situation and the circumstances that have led them to be in that particular space. And I think that could be a very amazing sort of extension of this learning opportunity. So I think that would be very helpful in my eyes for you to actually go out and do some of that work as well, because I think that can be super informative to not only this space and this policy, but actually to your life, to better understand what's happening in our society and some of the implications of some of the decisions that have happened nationwide in the state and here in the city. And so just wanted to express that. The other thing I would say is I went to Independence High School, and I know this area very well, and two of my kids went to KIPP Hartwood Academy, and they didn't go to KIPP Collegiate, but I have to say that I am always impressed by the students that have come through the KIPP schools, if you will, and today was no exception in being impressed with just your ability to come up here and share some of your thoughts and comments in a very clear and concise way. I just want to say that I continue to be impressed by the caliber of students, and I have no doubt that many of you are going to go off to do a lot of great things. But to that, I would encourage you to stay engaged. This topic isn't going to go away, assuming this policy actually is implemented as we expect it will, that 100 feet, foot buffer and such. You're not going to stop seeing some of the people that are living in the RVs, unhoused. And so I think it'd be great for you to continue to be engaged, and I'd really encourage that. Thank you for being here.
Well said, Councilmember. Before we move on to the vote, I just want to add a couple of other thoughts that I've had as I think through this memo. There are, on the early consideration forum, staff has identified 1,012 sites that fall under this ordinance, presumably because they're daycare schools. The scope of this is very large, and I don't think there's any. I think we ought to be thoughtful about what it is that we're asking for here. In my opinion, what we should be asking for here is a policy that allows us to react to highly impacted areas when there are issues that are arising there. So on this particular street, one that I've been aware of for a long time, where there have been issues and we have not had a policy by which we can react to that street, and it's been a frustration of mine when it was in my district and now that it's right across the border. And by the way, half the students at that school are from my district, so it's all connected. I think if we think about coming back with a policy that's talking about being targeted in our approach, using some judgment about where are the right places and where are some places that we should not have RVs parking on the street, as opposed to saying we're creating some kind of blanket rule that we have to strictly enforce everywhere. That to me is what I'm interested in more than a policy that says, this is the rule, and it's not really being thoughtful in how we might be successful in following that rule. So I don't know if I necessarily want to change the motion, but I just want staff to sort of think in that way as we come back and have that conversation. I presume that we as a council will have a conversation like that when it comes back in a few months. We'll get the input of everybody on council about what really makes sense for the city to be enforcing and how do we enforce it. I'm hopeful that by then we will have some better handle on when we're going to have some more spaces available for moving people in RVs to places that are safe and secure and better suited for them to be living. And I will continue to light the fire of urgency under Omar and others in that space in the city about what I consider to be being a little bit too slow at solving some of these problems in the meantime. So with that, unless there's any other green lights, we'll move on to a vote. So all in favor? Oh,
I hit my green light. Just real quick to your point, I think I don't know if we need to include language in the as it relates to the motion, but I think a logical way to approach this may be for staff as they go through and do this work to engage with each council office, because I think we all know of particular, I'll just call them hotspots for lack of a better word, in which something like this can be better sort of focused and targeted as opposed to sending them off out to every part of the city. So just wanted to throw that out there.
I would suggest more than open to that. I would suggest that after 90 days, if the council likes the policy and where we would be going, we would be asking to do some level of priority or resource setting as part of that. So I think it'd be most appropriate after council weighs in on that policy.
Okay, well, thank you, and that's a good suggestion. All right, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, it carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. That brings us to our final agenda item, which is item C2, Audit, Office of Retirement Services. I guess one of the two co-authors would like to start, and then...
You can go to public comment if there is any.
Okay, we'll go to public comment first on this item if there's any.
Blair?
Hi, Blair Beekman. Yourselves offered some really nice dialogue on the dais on the previous item. Thank you. For this item, I wanted to go over that back in 2021, I guess in the spring and late winter, after the George Floyd things, there was a big deal about raises for police. And it set in motion at that time, back in 2021. Yes, I am. At the Retirement Services Board, I'm sorry if I didn't start there. This was brought to the Retirement Services Board, these sort of questions, and they were trying to define how to talk about the future of inflation issues. That, the police union issue, had set in motion an inflation course that retirement board people were trying to address back in 2021. We have to be really cautious how we give raises, I feel. I'm really sorry to make this point, but we really have to. And the retirement board does some incredibly good work, and they do incredibly decent reporting of what to expect in upcoming years. And that was inhibited because of the police union things a few years ago. I just hope we don't make the same sort of mistakes with how you're in negotiations right now, and that ways that we can all, you know, a 12% raise can be reached in the end, but maybe just different ways to reach that end. Thanks for your time, and thanks for your patience in hearing me on this item. Oh, and thank you to the board, too. I think, just a reminder, the retirement board, they do some really important good work for ourselves, so thank you to them.
Back to the committee.
All right, Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley and I are the liaisons to the retirement boards, and we have last had an audit for them in 2017. They had an internal audit with some concerning findings, and so that was the reasoning for our memo here. Joe, you did have part of this already on your work plan. I just wanted, if it's okay with you, to come down and comment on the other items that were on here. It turned off.
Is this on? I can't tell anymore. One of the earlier items on the consent calendar was our work plan. We were requested by the administration to look at kind of the administrative functions and kind of the governance structure around some of those administrative operational questions. Some of those items that were brought up within that audit that you mentioned from the ORS, the Retirement Services Internal Audit, which is very close to what is included in number 4 here. And as that work was, I had a team kind of freeing up, they'd already kind of begun some of that benchmarking, what have you, so it is very much in line with some work that's kind of underway, at least that 4th piece. The items 1 through 3, the identifying internal processes and policies, and then compliance, some of that testing, that's a little broader set of work. So I would suggest that we continue that work that we've conducted and have that as kind of a first project, and then we could take on some of that more detailed testings of items 1 through 3, kind of following that. Then we just kind of break it up and do a couple projects. That way it would cover both what the administration has requested and what's in this memo.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. With that, I'll move our memo.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? All right, let's move to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, that motion carries 5-0. And now we're on to open forum.
Aaron and Blair, come down to the podium, please.
Hello, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for the meeting today. You guys did some nice work. It was just nice to hear yourselves. About bringing back the community energy things, good luck in how to talk about it as more than stakeholders, but as public. I think that was tried to be mentioned today. How do you bring the public into the process? Overall, thanks a lot. Again, from yesterday, you know, you gave the woman who I've been learning, you've been talking to for months over the issue. Clearly things were understood, but only a 24-hour notice is still a bit uncomfortable. And I think a 72-hour notice should be the standard way you guys should work. And good luck how to work in that way in the future. Like I'm saying, in being from San Diego, right now, they're working on encampment issues that's gone way overboard with police emphasis. When it could be housing staff, it could be housing first solutions, you know, nonprofit agency solutions that could really be the first front line of how to really address these things. And good luck how we're going to be trying to be doing that here and learning from the mistakes of other cities, which I think you guys did really well here today. Thank you. From the issues of, I learned something really interesting today about democracy, and that in Haiti, new police are coming in from Kenya to deal with their country's problems. But it isn't the policing that's needed in there, it's the concepts of democracy. And it just brought home, if they want to work on democracy, if we want to in that area, we can. We should be doing the same things here. We have good, you know, guidelines about tech accountability issues that can really ferment good participatory democracy and community energy issues as well. So good luck how we work on the concepts of democracy here at the local level. I think it can be something impressive for this.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, council members and all the committee, the Rules and Government Committee. Just for your information, back in 2020, I had a stroke, and I'm recovering still from that, but it's too much for me to wait for all this time. But it's worth it. Thank you, Council Member Cohen, Council Member Jimenez. I sent you an email also to the City Manager's office. I had an issue last week. Was a Monday, the 31st of July. My son and I, before going to dinner, we decided to get a mattress on the street, put it in pieces, and go dump it at PAL. After we dump it, a sergeant, his name is here, and I'm gonna leave copies, told me to get it out from the trash and not dump it at PAL. Now, I was a board member of PAL for the last 5 years of when the police department had PAL, then went to PRNS. So on this email, I got phone calls, including the chief of police, including the deputy chief, but there is no solution that they gave me. The encounter with this particular sergeant, that his name is in here. And in my email says, what can I do to better the city of San Jose? And then they put a person to call me from a PRNS just to inform me that I can use technology to clean the streets. I wasn't born with technology first. And the year 2002 with Mayor Ran Gonzalez had the volunteer.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. I think we're adjourned. It is 3:38 p.m.